What's up, everyone? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking some college football. We're previewing all the major teams before the 2025 season. Today, we'll be talking about Texas to Georgia and Alabama. Previously, we'll field requests. We're going to do Notre Dame and Clemson at some point this week from requests on Twitter. So if you have those, feel free to leave them below, along with any other feedback you might have about this current series, just trying to figure out the best way to display it. On top of that, liking the video, subscribing, that also helps a lot. So thank you if you've done those things. We'll dive right into Texas. We're going to give you the overview first and then dive into the roster specifics for this team. And I'll pull up last year's metrics where they finished as we talk about their body of work and what we can expect next year from an overall view. So this was an awesome team. Obviously, they made the college football playoff. They played a relatively easy schedule, at least compared to some other teams in the playoff. So I think that's the first thing to note when you look at these metrics. They ended up being the #1 total defense in the country. I think a lot of that was schedule driven. They also faced a lot of backup QBs. And then on offense, another very strong team. The place they lagged actually was passing, which probably doesn't surprise you. There's been a lot of criticism of Quinn Ewers since he took over that starting job and didn't live up to expectations, at least some people's expectations. But Sark is back. Head coach Steve Sarkisian, he originally took the job in 2021. His record with the program is 38-17, but it has been steady growth with him. They've now been to the college football playoff twice, and they had an awesome season last year. In the regular season, I guess only one regular season loss was to Georgia, but then they lost again to Georgia in the SEC championship, so kind of their kryptonite within conference. They get to the playoff. They have that crazy shootout against Arizona State, and then they drop a game to the eventual champion in Ohio State. So an awesome year that didn't quite get all the way there, but a solid building block nonetheless for Texas. Offensive coordinator Kyle Flood remains. He's been with the team since 2021, but obviously Sark, he has his fingerprints all over the offense. Before Sark got to Texas, he was the coordinator offensively for Alabama, did the same with the Falcons from 2017 to 2018. So there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen on the offense. They also list A.J. Milwee as co-OC. That was a promotion for him recently. He's the QB's coach. But yeah, Sark notoriously runs a complicated offense. So I think you saw Quinn Ewers out there for 2 years when Arch Manning was parked on the bench, at least part of the reason. Defense. Pete Kwiatkowski's still back. He's took over the position since 2021. They've had a lot of great defenses, including the #1 most efficient defense in the country last year. He previously held the same position for Washington. They also list a co-DC, that's Johnny Nansen. He was the coordinator of Arizona's defense before taking the co-DC position at Texas. So a lot of continuity here in the coaching staff, and that's a good place to build on. The second place you're building for these teams, recruiting. Here's where Texas has finished the last 3 seasons. I do realize they were in the Big 12 for this 2023 season. I believe they had the #1 Big 12 recruiting class. But I wanted to, they're in the SEC now, so who cares where they finish in the Big 12? Where would they have finished in the SEC? And the answer is third. They retained 72% of that class. Last year's class, they finished 6th overall, third in the SEC, retained 95% of that, just lost 1 transfer so far. The portal's about to open for the spring. And then they have the #1 recruiting class in this current cycle. It's a bit of a weird class, more on that in a second. They did not address the trenches very much, at least on the offensive side of the ball, which is a concern for me. But more on that when we get there. As far as transfer portal stuff, currently they are number 60. Last year they had the 5th ranked transfer class. They were 48th in 2023. But that's about where we stand with the overarching Texas roster at this point. And now it is time to dive into the weeds. So I will bring you to our tool behind the glass. This is what you're seeing on the screen is basically the 2-deep projected roster. Players in yellow are transfers coming in. Players in like this pinkish red are injured right now, missing the spring. And then you have the year, their snaps the last 2 seasons, their recruiting star ranking, and then our overall player score for these teams. It's designed to be almost similar to a Madden rating, with the elite players being, that's kind of territory that's hard to reach. But basically that ranking takes into account where you were recruited, like what your recruiting ranking was, And then the more you play, the less the recruiting ranking matters, because obviously we care about on-field play for these teams. So that takes us to the quarterback position, where we have a new face, kind of, not necessarily new, but Arch Manning's taking over full-time after plenty of cameo appearances, especially last year. Quinn Ewers departs, and this is probably for the better. I think Quinn Ewers finished as the 65th most efficient quarterback last year among all QBs in college football that had 300 dropbacks. He was hurt, but that was also the story of Quinn Ewers. You could call him a warrior for playing through a lot of injuries. I've heard criticisms that the guy never changed his body at all in the years of college, which, like the underlying criticism of that is like, why wasn't he in the weight room more? Like, how do you look the exact same after 3 years at Texas's weight room? Regardless, Arch Manning is the highest recruit in recent memory, like the highest of all 5-stars among the percentile rankings. He is a 100th percentile recruit. What we've seen on the field has been awesome for him. 66.5% completion, 10.2 yards per attempt, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 6 big-time throws, 2 turnover-worthy plays, more mobility than expected, 4.3 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns on the ground. He had a 67-yard run, and he posted 149 yards after contact, which is nuts for a QB. So, I mean, everything we've seen has been on par with a recruiting ranking. The only thing we haven't seen is it over an extended sample. Give him a full game. He's done that a couple times, but let's see it over stretches where you get banged up. You have to game plan week in, week out. It's also a strong position group because you have 4 stars behind Arch Manning. You're not really going to see this be a QB battle, but if there's injury or something, Trey Owens is a 4-star from last year's class. Carl Lacey Jr. comes in. He's a 4-star from this class. So the quarterback position is in a good place overall for depth. And then the ceiling, it's the highest in the country with Arch Manning, honestly showing me more than I thought he would, considering what he's done on the ground. The running back position should be deeper than usual as well. You lose Jaden Blue, who is really just a burner, an explosive threat. There was a little more to his game, a good pass catcher, of course, but Quintravian Wisner beat him out, which is a bit of a surprise. He's more of a 3-star back, and Wisner returns. You also get back the 2024 5-star CJ Baxter, who tore his ACL in fall camp last year. He did play as a freshman. Excuse me, he was a 2023 4-star or 5-star. And he had to play right away in 2023 because we saw Jonathan Brooks go down late in that season, and Baxter rushed for 659 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, 24 catches, and he's 220 pounds. He's 6'1". He's a big back that can handle a full workload. The benefit to this is I don't think he needs to with Wisner back, who he's a little bit smaller, 6 feet, 200 pounds, but rushed for over 1,000 yards, 4.7 yards per carry. Elite pass catcher, caught 44 balls last year. So the top end of the position's in a good spot. From there, they have 2024 4-star Jarek Gibson. He rushed 78 times last year. Christian Clark, James Simon, Ricky Stewart Jr. are all on the roster as former 4-stars or incoming 4-stars. So you have 6 players that have either played or are of at least 4-star caliber. Baxter coming in as a 5-star off the injury. The wide receiver position, they basically are flipping most of it for the second consecutive year. You lose Isaiah Bond. You lose Matthew Golden. You lose some other depth pieces like Silas Bolden. That doesn't really matter. But luckily, you do return 618 snaps from Ryan Wingo, and then you return another 522 from DeAndre Moore. These players had to see the field more as the season went on. It's because Bond was dealing with an injury. There were a lot of injuries in the receiving corps, honestly. Jonte Cook's disappearance. So these players ended up ascending towards the end of the year, and it went well. Wingo, 472 yards efficiently. Moore, 456 yards. Less efficient, but played a different role. Moore's basically playing on the boundary. Only 84% of his snaps came. Let me rephrase that. Moore was their typical slot receiver. 84% of his snaps came in the slot. Wingo was your boundary receiver. I don't know why I just flipped those routes in my head for a second there. But that makes sense to me. Wingo's the taller receiver, but Moore definitely does have some size himself. He's still 6 feet tall. That's at least a great place to start. Both of them were injured in the spring, which I don't really think is a bad thing. I mean, you never want players to be injured, but they're veterans at this point. And now you can cultivate some depth because there wasn't much proven behind Wingo and Moore. You have a lot of young elite receivers that need to get some work. You have a bunch of freshmen. Khalil Lockett is an incoming 5-star. He's 6'2", 185 pounds. He was the 18th ranked freshman in the country. Jamie French is an incoming 4-star, barely missed being a 5-star. He's the 44th ranked prospect in the country. He comes in at 6'1", 184. Even Dalen McCutcheon's an incoming 4-star. He's more of a slot receiver at 178 pounds, but he was the 103rd ranked freshman in the country. So you have an absolutely loaded incoming freshman class at wide receiver, which doesn't even include some of the players on the roster already, like Aaron Butler, Parker Livingstone. Both of them were already 4-stars. Michael Terry's another incoming 4-star. Probably the most interesting name among the players that were already on the roster. Livingstone is 6'4", so it's like a slightly different body type for him. But the receiving position should be in a good place, even though it's a little bit unproven. Honestly, I'd rather have that to some degree than continually rely on the transfer portal. Tight end is a bit of a disaster. They missed on Amari Nyblack. He transferred out. You lose Gunnar Helm. He's off to the NFL. So you have very little experience. Sophomore 3-star Spencer Shannon returns the most snaps at 58. He is 6'5", 255 pounds. Good blocker, so that's a good place to start. Then you have 2024 4-star Jordan Washington. He played 28 snaps last year and looked like he could be poised for a breakout, but he broke his collarbone in the spring. Never good for a redshirt freshman. And then for depth, we're looking at 3-star Will Randall, an incoming 4-star freshman Nick Townsend. Just a very unproven group so far. Not the most important position, but we've now seen 2 straight years of this being important because Jatavian Sanders and Gunnar Helm were able to give them a lot when the receiving position had its ups and downs. So I'm a little concerned about tight end. We'll see if they add someone in the spring window or something like that, or Washington coming back from the injury. It's not the best position on the team. Offensive line, they did lose 4 starters, which leaves a lot of holes to plug. They didn't bring in a single transfer. They have a very limited offensive line class. The 2025 freshman class is 2 newcomers. Only one of them is a 4-star. I personally think that's not good enough. Like Georgia, Alabama, these teams are bringing in multiple 4 and 5 stars every single season. So this reminds me of like the early Texas days under Sark, where we needed more players in the trenches. It's still very good up front. Elite recruits to replace the starters they lost. Left tackle should be Trevor Gooseby. He's a 2024 4-star. Had to play sparingly last year, got 162 snaps, only allowed 5 pressures, which is decent, but another year of development should help him. Left guard, I think we're seeing Nito Umeozulu. He was a 2023 4-star, 81 snaps last year. Most of them didn't come at guard. Of course, with 81 snaps, you're definitely open to competition. Jaden Chapman's another name to mention at that spot. He played briefly at both guard spots. But you have an elite recruit there regardless. Center, I think former 4-star Cole Hudson's likely to be the player to look at here. He filled in for 389 snaps last year, only allowed 6 pressures. Solid place to begin. Connor Robertson also played 77 and 124 snaps over the last 2 years. He's another player. Maybe you could kick one of them out to guard because they're a little more experienced than what you're seeing at left guard. Right guard is the only position of returning snaps. DJ Campbell started the last 2 years. He should be the leader of this group, no questions asked. He's going to be their best offensive lineman unless one of these young players can really step up. Right tackle should be up for grabs. Think you see 2024 5-star Brandon Baker is the favorite, got 65 snaps last year. Also have Nate Kibble on the roster. He's a former 4-star. So there's a lot of players that could come up and take over these jobs. But really, you have DJ Campbell as your most experienced by a mile, Cole Hudson second at nearly 400 snaps, and then you're breaking in 3 complete new starters. And I have questions about the incoming class. Again, only Nick Brooks is a 4-star caliber. On the 2 deep already of 3 3-stars, Connor Robertson, Connor Stroh, and Andre Kojo. Maybe some of the depth pieces are a little better than I'm guessing, but I think Texas needs to do more on the offensive line recruiting than what they have, or hit the portal. Like, you can't have as Texas now. I'm not talking about UTEP. I'm not talking about TCU. If your goal is to win a national championship year in, year out, I don't think you can have these players on your two deep. Unless you're truly that good at developing talent like Michigan and Notre Dame. Texas hasn't shown that ability so far. Maybe they could, but it's at least a question. I'm a little down on the Texas offensive line, not only because of the starters they're replacing, but I'm just not sure you're relying on three-star development is not the best path to a national championship. However, let's move to the defense. This is a weird unit overall. You have some units that are position units that are really deep and return a lot of talent, and some that are replacing the entire thing. And inside that, the interior replaces the entire unit, and the edge group is actually pretty good. So when you look at the departures, this is wild. You had only one of your three edges lost, but your top six defensive tackles. And on the secondary, you lose two studs in Jedi Barron and Andrew Makuba. Those were the two best defenders on the entire team. How do they replace that? Well, let's start with the edge because this group actually does have a lot of good production back. Ethan Burke has played 324 and 434 snaps the last 2 years. Had 19 pressures last year. That was solid. Trey Moore, the UTSA transfers back after 674 snaps. He had 36 pressures. And then you do get back last year's five-star freshman, Colin Simmons, who had to play a bit, had the best win rate on the team, 15.6% pass rush win rate, and he logged 46 pressures. So you have an awesome place to start with the pass rushing group, 3 elite studs, which doesn't even include incoming five-star Lance Jackson. There's players beyond this, Smith Orogbo, Zena, Umeozulu, Colton Vasek, all of them at least 4-star caliber. You're going 6 deep at the edge. Defensive tackle, this is where we've got a lot of players to replace. Vernon Broughton's gone. I mean, top 6 gone. So this is where Texas hammered the transfer portal. You bring in Hiro Kanu from Ohio State, Travis Shaw from North Carolina, Cole Brevard from Purdue. All 3 are elite recruits. Kanu and Brevard, 4 stars. Shaw's a 5-star. However, they're all seniors that haven't played a ton with their previous programs. Purdue's Brevard played the most, 392 snaps last year, 416 the year before. Former 5-star Shaw for North Carolina got 337. And Kanu just playing behind that loaded Ohio State defensive line, only 124. But you at least have a decent place to start. The most experienced player on this unit, at least among the incumbents, is Alex January. He played 94 snaps last year. But they did hammer this group in the recruiting class. Unlike the offensive line, they bring in 5-star freshman Justice Terry, 4 stars Myron Charles, Josiah Sharma. The position lacks experience, but you can't say it lacks for talent. I mean, this unit is full of former 5-stars, 4-stars, and incoming 4-stars and 5-stars that aren't even on the depth chart here. We deferred to the experience of the transfers and then, of course, included the 5-star freshmen. But yeah, you got a nice blend on the interior, and this Texas defensive line should be awesome. At linebacker, you're returning a ton of production. Anthony Hill's a multi-year starter, former 5-star, very productive. Leona Leafau has been a little up and down. First year of starting caliber snaps, 506. He struggled in coverage, especially, but former 4-star, now in his second year starting. Expecting good production from him. They do bring in Brad Spence from Arkansas, a transfer that played average when he was forced into action with them. He was not a full-time starter, but he did play 366 snaps. You have a lot coming back outside of that. Ty Anthony Smith is a 4-star. Incoming 4-star Elijah Barnes is still there. So it's another nice blend of returning production with incoming recruits, depth recruits on the team. Secondary is where I have some more questions. I think edge obviously was elite with what they returned. Defensive tackle, I think the blend of transfers and recruiting will be enough to overcome their losses. And linebacker, you're returning a lot. Defensive back, you return some, but what you lose is Jedi Barron. He was the best player in the secondary. Makuba was also very good. So where does this start? At corner, Malik Muhammad does return multiple years of starting experience, played 897 snaps last year, 50% catch rate. He was targeted 60 times, allowed 30 receptions. So it's a pretty good place to begin. Then they have Jalen Gullabo. He played mostly in the slot last year, but I think he could potentially move outside after You lose Barron, 691 snaps, and he really only trailed Malik Muhammad in production among the players that are back on this team. So I'm not sure where he plays, maybe in the slot, maybe out wide. I think the final corner spot, which is still up for grabs, probably goes to Jelani McDonald. 477 snaps last year, but that was split between safety and corner. So you do have some versatility with your secondary, at least among the players that we project to play corner right now. For example, if one of your freshmen or young players that hasn't been on the field much plays really well, you have the flexibility to maybe move Gullibo in the slot, move McDonald to safety. Having versatility among your players is good. But right now, we're going to project McDonald at the nickel position just based on where the other strengths of this team are. And that's because you do have safety pretty much locked up. Michael Tafe, the former walk-on, is an elite player, like the crazy development for him. Played 829 snaps last year, only allowed 210 yards in coverage, 8 pass breakups, 2 picks. So that safety spot's on lock. And then I think Derek Williams Jr., as long as he's healthy, should get the last spot at safety. He only played 4 games because he got hurt, but strong production back in 2023 where he was at 397 snaps. So that's where all of your experience lies, but there's a ton of depth at safety. Jordan Johnson Rubel, 4-star. Xavier Filisame, 5-star. Corner, Kobe Black, Warren Robinson, Wardell Mack. They're 4 stars in the 2 deep. A pair of incoming 5 stars and Jonah Williams and Cade Phillips could all contribute immediately. 4 stars, Grayson Littleton, Zealous Hicks, Santana Wilson. The secondary has so many young elite recruits, which is why I wanted to bring up the versatility of the players that have experience. If like 5-star Jonah Williams or Cade Phillips can get on the field immediately, you can be versatile and move some of your other players around to get your best 5 on the field at all times. And it's great for depth. If you have injuries, you need to play dime packages, whatever the case is, this Texas secondary is elite. The defense is elite. Special teams, Bert Auburn is back. I'm honestly surprised that we had such a strong finish from Texas secondary, special teams wise last year. Because Bert Auburn has been really up and down. He's never missed an extra point, but he is 16 of 25 on field goals. He's missed at least 3 straight years. His range is shaky. He is 22 of 33 from 40 to 49 yards. He is 2 of 6 from 50 plus. Last year, he was the 70th most efficient kicker in the country, which is not the best mark, obviously. So I'm not sure what we get from Auburn. He's a good recruit overall, but yeah, the kicking game, not the strength of this team. Schedule-wise, I'll pull you back so we can look at that. I personally think this is among the easier schedules in the SEC. Obviously, you start out very difficult with Ohio State in non-conference. That's tough. However, your other non-conferences are San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston. Those are 3 automatic wins. In conference, I mean, you couldn't really draw it up, I think, better for this incoming season. You dodge Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Ole Miss, Missouri, South Carolina. The weaker teams of Kentucky, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas are all on the schedule. I mean, I project all of those teams to finish in the bottom 6. You've got at Georgia, that's tough. At Florida, that's tough. Oklahoma on a neutral, of course, in Red River. Texas A&M to close the year. But those are your toughest games. I think, obviously, the most difficult ones are going to be at Ohio State, at Georgia, at Florida. But you're just walking into a bunch of layups. And outside of the Georgia and Florida and Ohio State road trips, Kentucky, Mississippi State are very, very easy road trips. I mean, the path is there for an SEC championship, even though there are significant questions with this roster. I think mainly offensively, you're relying a lot on youth there, especially on the offensive line. But the defense should be elite, like last year. When Quinn Ewers struggled, they could fall back on their defense. They're going to be able to do the same thing this year. I'm not sure where I'm going to play Texas in the futures market, if I will at all. But, I mean, this path is pretty nice overall, considering you're not getting a lot in the middle of the conference. You either have the tough high-end stuff or the bottom of the conference overall. But that'll do it for us today. Let me know what you think in the comments. If I missed anything, improvements that potentially would help the video. And if you want to hear about a team in the future, let me know. Otherwise, thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time.